The countdown is on. 100 days until the college football season officially begins, and with that means potential expansion in the college football playoff. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti gave his first extensive public comments in support of a 24-team CFP model, making it clear the league has no interest in pursuing a 16-team format. Listen to these quotes. We've had, quote, zero conversation about 16. Plan B is what we have now. We would stay with what we have now. When I was at Major League Baseball, we never had to convince anybody that keeping more teams in the race is better for everybody and the fans. Like, we never had to do that. And I feel like in this space, like, we're kind of being asked to do that. It's almost counterintuitive, says Petitti. Now, the statement continues as the Big Ten wants a 24-team. SEC wants 16 teams, as we have talked about a little bit here. I don't understand why we can't meet in the middle and have 20 teams. But anyways, the question is expanding the CFP the right thing to do?
Hell no, it isn't. More and more and more can be gluttonous. It doesn't have to be better. They're not 24 teams worthy of a playoff. They're not 16 teams worthy of a playoff. I'm not sure every year they're 12. They just aren't. Now we know what this is. It's a money grab. And it's all of, when I say our bosses, I mean the people in the television industry. This is about ESPN, ABC, Fox. Okay, this is about some turf wars going on there with conference affiliations. The ACC doesn't really want it, might have to go along with it. The SEC doesn't want it. Nobody should want 24. Nobody. We hear all of this nonsense about health and safety. What hypocrisy. Health and safety. So you want to add maybe as many, Shay, as 5 games to a college schedule. I haven't even gotten to the part yet about the great thing about college football is the scarcity of product. 12 games is enough. If you add a 13th with the conference championship, fine. Now you're going to go to maybe as many as 18 games, and you talk about health and safety. You want to add that kind of physicality to a college schedule. When will these games be played? This is about controlling a calendar. It's about all sorts of other things. There are not 24 worthy teams. And I'm a Big Ten alum. I am a trustee at one of those universities. I just found out today, Greeny told me this, Northwestern, not a football power ever in anybody's wildest dreams. We would have made the playoffs or qualified
4 times.
4 times in that time. My institution stands to gain that kind of money with this. It is heinous to try to put a 24-team playoff out there for college football.
Before you go, Stephen A., I just want to push back a little bit here. Now, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I'm playing devil's advocate. Okay. What if you shorten the regular season? So you only have
6 games?
8 games.
Ended at Halloween?
Let's say 8 games. And in addition to that, and again, just playing devil's advocate here, now these players are getting paid. So we play a 17-week schedule in the NFL. There is an NIL component to this, too. If you make the playoff, there could be incentives. I am just pointing it out. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Hey, you're first of all, you're not wrong, because these are the points that are going to be made in favor of the 24-team playoff about shortening the regular season. I am a traditionalist in that way.
Yeah.
In that college football, the regular season ought to matter. If we're starting a playoff at Halloween, and how long does it go? And once you get into January, you don't have Saturdays and Sundays to do this because pro football, the NFL controls it.
Right. Go ahead, Stephen A.
We're running out of time. We ain't going that route. Listen, I agree with you. No, there's no way in hell it should go to a 24-team playoff. There aren't 21 teams worthy.
No.
But Wilbon, I have no problem with 16. I really, really don't. I never have.
Okay.
And listen, let me explain why. You know, when you look at college football, the college football landscape, we all knew they needed to expand to 12 teams. You need to have a playoff system. That's good for the sport.
Agreed.
And not only that, too many times, too many people were left out. Somebody would say, well, what's the issue with 4 more teams? Now, according to Petitti, if you had a 16-team playoff format, you'd likely have to eliminate conference championship games, which would collectively cost college football over $200 million. And that's not something they want to do. I understand that argument. I'm talking about just the teams. Let's look right now, Wilbon, at the top 16 teams from last year, all right, from this past season. Of course, Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, Miami, Notre Dame, BYU. That's top 12. Texas, Vanderbilt, Utah, and Southern California. This notion that, you know what, everybody doesn't deserve it. I agree with you, Wilbon, when we're talking about 24. But could you have a playoff with 16 teams worthy of being in the playoffs, capable of knocking each other off? Yes, you could.
Yeah.
Yes, you could.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is that's what I want. In other words, when we sit up there, think about the NFL playoffs. You're talking about 14 teams in the playoffs out of 30 teams in the league, 32 teams in the league, 14 teams in the playoffs, 7 from each conference, okay? You're in college football with this inordinate amount of schools competing against one another. What's wrong with 16 teams? I don't see a problem with that, particularly if the top 16 teams in the nation, okay, are capable of beating one another, as opposed to us needing to allow somebody from the James Madisons of the world, like last season, or somebody else like that. You know, you might not want that because you don't want some gimme where you're on the football field, because football is a violent sport, and you don't want people that have no chance of competing actually out there compete, because people can get hurt in the sport of football. But if you're a legitimate team that can knock off somebody, why not? Why not? I got no problem with a 16-team playoff.
Do you think there's going to be a compromise? Look, the Big Ten wants 24. The SEC doesn't. Those two have to come to some agreement, or what do you have?
I agree.
So make it 20.
Figure that out.
Let's meet in the middle here.
20.
Why?
20.
Meet in the middle. It doesn't make any
Not
sense.
20.
Okay,
but
we got to
16,
go.
But 16.
Kind of being asked to do that, it's almost counterintuitive. So Josh Pate has as much passion for and insight into college football as anyone I know. So, Josh, there's a whole new audience that has joined us in the last hour, so they have not yet heard your perspective. When I say 2014 college football playoff, what do you say?
Yeah, I hate it. I despise it at a cellular level. It goes against everything that I and most other fans love about this sport, Greeny. I want to reiterate, you set the table good there. I want to set the other side of the table. Once upon a time, we had a 14 playoff, and a super majority of the public wanted to expand to 12. So these sorts of people knew they had public sentiment on their side. So they cited it all the time. They said, we're doing this for the fans. We're doing this for the fans. One of the big tells right now is you don't hear any conference commissioner, you don't hear any executive or university president or even coach talking about the fans when they want to expand to 24. It's because the big elephant in the room right now is fans despise this. A super majority of fans despise this. It's because they understand what makes college football great more so than most of these folks do. All due respect, no one really cares how our sport compares to other pro sports because we think we're one of one. What makes us unique is unique unto college football. And because it's really about revenue and everyone understands that, they're having to put together really bad faith football logic to try and sell it. So they're saying things like, well, this will create more meaningful games. No, it won't. No, it just strips meaning off of games featuring teams actually probably capable of winning the whole thing. And it manufactures meaning on games with teams trying to lock down a 22 seed that everyone knows won't do anything once they get in the tournament. Also, Greeny, you've probably heard this lately. You've probably heard, well, you know, bowl season's meaningless now. So why wouldn't we just want to see playoff games instead of bowl games? And what really gets me fired up, I gritted my teeth there a little bit, which I promised I wouldn't do, is the entire expansion of playoffs to begin with is what torpedoed bowl season. So the same people who pulled the lever that torpedoed bowl season now use the faulty logic of bowl season's meaningless now. I guess that means we have to expand further. No, it means you got to take the lever out of the hands of the people who ruined it to begin with and put it in the hands of people who actually, A, know what they're doing, B, aren't looking to financially bail out their own bad decision making, and 3, could answer this question for me. What makes college football great? And if the answer is anything other than the regular season, all due respect, I think you probably need to move on and make decisions for another sport.
Okay, so for the record, I agree. I'm on this side. There's 2 things I want to address. The first of them is the other day I said here, if we live in a world where Ohio State and Michigan are resting their starters because they have a 5-game playoff run in front of them, then everything about college football we've ever known ceases to exist. And I got a lot of people supported that, and then a lot of people pushed back on me. Greeny, they would never do that. You know nothing about this rivalry. Okay, slow down. Maybe I was using the extreme example to make my point. And maybe in that one very unique and particular case, because of the importance of that game to their fans, that might be one where that would not happen. We'd have to wait and see. But certainly there would be any number of games where that would be a concern. So I wanted to just say that first and address that piece of it. Here's the second. Now, here's what I'm going to say, Pate, having already told you I'm on your side. I'm old enough to remember when people said creating a playoff is going to destroy the regular season. Paying players is going to destroy the regular season. The transfer portal is going to destroy fans' interest in the game and their attachment to their teams. And none of those things have happened. All they have done is love college football just as much, if not even more. And so I think what I would say in response to everything you've just said is, I think you're right. But what I think the powers that be are counting on is that the fans of college football are so passionate, love the sport and their teams so much, that they will stick with it regardless of whether they like the system or not.
A lot of them will. But I will ask you this, for anybody who has witnessed a marriage come to an end, is the day the divorce papers are signed the day the marriage starts to come to an end? Or was it dissolving long before that, and then the divorce papers were just the final stamp? Because I work in this stuff year round. I cover college football year round. And I can promise you a lot of the connective tissue between the consumer and college football has been damaged. I'll give you 2 case studies right quick. I can do it in 10 seconds. No one pays attention to National Signing Day anymore. That's the equivalent of our draft. And they don't pay attention to it because the results have told them, I'm not going to emotionally invest in a guy that I think will be gone 12 to 18 months later. Number 2, spring games were the only events that some families could afford to take their children to and spend an afternoon on campus and sort of immerse them in that experience. Well, those have gone by the wayside. And they've gone by the wayside because of coaches or administrators deciding, we really don't need them anymore. Okay, that's your prerogative, but you need to understand, people deciding to not watch your games in the fall, that's the last resort. That'd be way down the road. But don't mistake big TV ratings right now for thinking, we haven't done anything to damage this sport. You 1,000% have, but it still has the balance of urgency on regular season Saturdays right now. Expanding to 24 is what starts to take a sledgehammer to that, and that's the final pillar, Greeny.
All right, I think that's extremely well said. Now, I want to point out one other thing. Earlier this morning, I read the following statistic. It is just a statistic, and it is accurate. We went back and looked since the college football playoff began in 2014. If there had been a 2014 playoff, Northwestern University, my alma mater, would have qualified 4 different times in 2020, 2018, 2017, and 2015. Will Compton, our buddy Will Compton's Nebraska Cornhuskers, would have qualified 0 times. So I mentioned that earlier this morning. I presented it without comment, and Will Compton has turned this into a thing. Take a look at this. Let me get Windy in here. You live in Nebraska. Will Compton tweeted, my dear friend at ESPN Greeny is now an enemy to the entire state of Nebraska. Windy, am I an enemy now?
With incredible confidence.